Hey everyone, in today's video I am going to compare the Huawei MediaPad M5 Lite versus the iPad 6 from 2018. I want to talk about the pros and cons of each tablet so that you can decide for yourself which one is more worth the money as a budget tablet for digital drawing. I have already reviewed each tablet in greater detail running through the different drawing apps in their own videos, so if you want to watch those reviews, the links are in the video description below. The MediaPad M5 Lite is currently, at the time of this review, US $299. That may or may not come bundled with the M Pen and the case. In US, I believe they do bundle it with the pen. So the iPad 6 is, at the time of this review, I found it on Amazon for US $249. That does not include the $99 US Apple Pencil. So overall, this is about $350 versus $299. Both tablets come with 32 gigs of storage. This comes with 3 gigs of RAM, this with 2 gigs of RAM. If you want to expand storage in the future, you can do so very easily with the Huawei tablet because it comes with a micro SD card slot. With this iPad, you are stuck with whatever storage you get when you purchase it. You have the option to buy this at 32 gigs of storage or 128 gigs of storage, which is US $100 more expensive. But if you choose to upgrade this with additional external storage for US $100, it can get you 4 times the amount of storage, like 400 gigs. This also has LTE connectivity, so you can insert your SIM card to get cellular data. For the iPad, Apple sells the Wi-Fi model and the cellular model separately. So for the cellular model, it is an extra US $100. The screen size on this is 10.1 inches and this is 9.7 inches. This screen may look bigger, that's because of the 4:3 aspect ratio, and this screen is much taller if it's in vertical format. The aspect ratio is around 16:9. The resolution on this is 1920 by 1200. The resolution on the iPad is 2048 by 1536, so this has more resolution compared to the MediaPad M5 Lite, but when I look at both screens, they are similar in sharpness. Both tablets are incredibly glossy. They are about the same size. The iPad is a bit wider. They are about the same thickness and they weigh about the same. Now in terms of build quality, both are excellent. They are very solid build. In terms of design, the Huawei MediaPad M5 Lite does look more modern. This iPad design dates back to the first iPad. It has very thick top and bottom, so the bezel is not uniform like the Huawei M5 Lite. So this looks nicer. And also the screen, the glass screen actually curves to the metal back. This looks and feels great. The iPad has a hard edge here and then it curves down. When you look at the Huawei design, this is clearly designed to be used horizontally because this is designed to be used as a media consumption tablet. When it's in horizontal format, the camera is at the top, fingerprint sensor at the bottom, power and volume buttons on the right side, USB-C and the audio jack on the left side. Now with typical tablet design, in vertical format, the camera is at the top, fingerprint at the bottom, the power and the volume buttons around this side. Now if I were to hold the Huawei tablet vertically like this, the fingerprint sensor is now on the right side, camera on the left side, and audio jack at the bottom, power and volume buttons at the top. So with the volume buttons at the top, it's not really that intuitive. Sometimes I would actually hold it the wrong side up, so now the volume button, the power button is at the bottom and the headphone jack is at the top. The difference in aspect ratio definitely affects user experience. So for example, when you are browsing a web page, take a look at this page here, especially this photo here. Because this view is wider, I'm not able to see the photo. But because of the 4:3 aspect ratio on the iPad, this is taller, and because of that, I can see more of the photo. So when it comes to browsing web pages, actually the iPad is better, but when it comes to watching videos, your 16:9 videos will be able to fill up this screen much better without the black bars at the top and bottom. When it comes to watching videos, the audio quality of the M5 Lite, it's fantastic because it has 4 speakers, 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom, so the sound feels very 3D, very stereo. It has a very good surround quality to it. Now with the iPad, when you are watching videos horizontally like this, the speakers are on this side, so it comes out on the right side, so there's definitely no stereo to it. And also the volume of the M5 Lite, it's louder because there are 4 speakers, and overall it just sounds better. So if you're someone who watches a lot of video, this is definitely the tablet to go for. In terms of overall performance, for example, when you're watching videos, jumping around apps, browsing the web, opening up new tabs, or just scrolling around, the fluidity, how smooth those actions are, it's actually smoother on the iPad. So with the M5 Lite, occasionally I would feel that slight lag. So it definitely doesn't feel as smooth compared to the iPad. So let me show you a very visual example so that you can compare for yourself. I'm going to turn these 2 tablets horizontally and take note of the time it takes for them to change orientation. So notice that this has that split-second lag. So that split-second lag happens to most of the things that I do on this tablet. When I show you how much time it takes to change orientation, the lag is more noticeable. When it comes to browsing web pages or watching videos or tapping on buttons, the lag is less noticeable, but it's definitely still there. Let's compare the pens. So the Apple Pencil is US $99, and that is quite expensive. This is almost 3 times the price of the M Pen Lite, but the drawing experience with the Apple Pencil definitely does feel better because this is more accurate. It has tilt sensitivity as well as pressure sensitivity. Palm rejection is almost flawless most of the time. The downside is the battery life is not as long compared to the M Pen Lite, so you would occasionally have to charge this, and to charge the Apple Pencil, you have to connect the Apple Pencil to the bottom of the iPad. Charging time is actually quite fast, so for 15 minutes of charging, you can get a few more hours of usage. Another downside of the Apple Pencil is each time you turn off Bluetooth, you would have to pair the Apple Pencil with the iPad again. Now with the Huawei M Pen Lite, this is always on, this is always paired. Battery life of the M Pen Lite is excellent. If it has the same battery life as the Microsoft Surface Pen, which uses the same Quad A battery, it should have a battery life of around 6 months to a year. So that's fantastic. And I really like that you can remove the battery. So if the battery is faulty, you can replace it. But with the Apple Pencil, the battery is built into the pencil, so my Apple Pencil has been around for 2 years. The battery inside is old and it drains battery life quite quickly, so I have to charge this every few days. It's a bit inconvenient, but it's not too bad. It's a small issue. Pen tips for both pens are replaceable. This is the pull-out type of pen tip, and this is the screw-on type of pen tip. I don't know where you can find replacement tips for the M Pen Lite though, but for the Apple pen tip, it's very easy to find online on eBay. The M Pen Lite supports up to 2000 levels of pressure sensitivity. Pressure sensitivity works quite well, but there is no tilt sensitivity, unlike the Apple Pencil. And palm rejection with the M Pen Lite, it is not as good compared to the Apple Pencil. So occasionally I would have stray strokes like this. And when I'm drawing, if I do not pay attention to the stray strokes, maybe half an hour later, I have completed my drawing. I have to go back and remove all the stray strokes. That can be very challenging. So palm rejection, with the M Pen Lite and the tablet. It really depends on the app that you use. So notice I have another stray stroke there, so that can be quite irritating. With Apple Pencil's tilt sensitivity, you can get some pretty interesting effects by changing the tilt of the pen. So I can draw vertically and then tilt my pen down for those thicker lines. I can also shade with this, and when I want to draw details, I can hold the pen more vertically to draw details. Pressure sensitivity works well with tilt sensitivity. It's very intuitive. It's very easy to understand. When it comes to drawing diagonal lines, sometimes I can see slight wobble. It really depends on the app that you use. With certain apps, slow diagonal lines are going to be smoother, but this app that I'm using here, this is Artflow, I can see some wobble. If you draw fast, then it's not going to be an issue. If you draw slow, sometimes you want to draw slow because you want the extra detail. That's when you can notice the slight jitter. Another straight stroke there. This is MediaPad Paint Pro on Android. So I'm drawing the slow diagonal lines again, and here with MediaPad Paint Pro, there seems to be some slight wobble as well. There is pressure sensitivity, definitely, but there is a slight wobble. Pay attention to the gap between the line and the pen tip. That is the input lag. So as I draw a bit faster, you can see the line, it will trail behind the pen tip by quite a bit. But I think this is still alright. It's not incredibly frustrating. I'm actually not really bothered by this amount of input lag. I mean, the lines, they still come out just the way I want them to. And it's not like the lines, they come out in a stuttering manner. There is actually no gap between the glass surface and the LCD screen below. So once the line catches up with the pen tip, the line would seem like it's directly beneath the pen tip. So this overall drawing experience makes me feel like when I'm drawing, the lines are appearing directly beneath the pen tip. It's just that the gap between the line and the pen tip, that's contributed by the input lag. If you're someone who draws very fast, then the lag is going to be more noticeable. If you're just drawing at typical speed, moderate speed, personally for me, I think this level of performance, it's fine. And notice here with MediaPad Paint Pro, there are no stray strokes. So I can actually draw with my finger, which I'm doing right now, and there are no stray strokes. It works with finger gestures, but when I accidentally tap on the screen with my finger, no stray strokes. So palm rejection here, it works way better compared to Artflow, the earlier app that I showed you. And now I'm on the iPad. Once again, pay attention to the gap between the lines and the pen tip as the lines appear. This app that I'm using, this is Procreate. The input lag on this iPad, it's not as obvious compared to the M5 Lite. So the overall drawing experience here, it feels very responsive and very nice. Pay attention to the gap again as I draw this line very quickly. Drawing does feel more responsive on the iPad. So that's where the Huawei tablet pales in comparison. But I do understand that some people, they just don't like to use Apple products. And that is fine for whatever reason. It's just that when it comes to drawing, sometimes the Apple tablets, they really do perform better than Android tablets. Palm rejection and pressure sensitivity works quite well on the iPad, and you can expect this level of performance to be consistent with the other drawing apps from the App Store. On Android, the drawing experience really depends a lot on the app that you use. And with the MediaPad M5 Lite, the more responsive apps are actually Artflow and Adobe Sketch. On the iPad, you can expect performance to be more consistent, and that really helps a lot, especially if you are someone who uses a lot of different drawing apps. This iPad does not have a laminated screen, so there is a gap between the glass and the LCD screen beneath. What this means is when you are drawing, you will be able to see that gap. And even when the line has caught up with the pen tip, there will still be the gap. There are two types of gaps. The first type is the gap between the pen tip and the line as it appears while you are drawing. That gap is affected by input lag, and on the iPad, the input lag is very minimal, so the overall drawing experience because of that will feel more responsive. The second type of gap is the gap between the glass surface and the LCD screen beneath. Having less input lag impacts drawing experience positively, so that's why the overall drawing experience on the iPad is better. The 4:3 aspect ratio, in my opinion, is better for productivity, better for drawing because you can use this horizontally and vertically and can still see a lot of your canvas. But with the wider aspect ratio like this, it works better when you are using it horizontally. If you are using it vertically, then it's more narrow. It feels more narrow, and when you put palettes on the screen, you are not left with a lot of space. The last thing I want to mention that impacts drawing experience is this pen tip is incredibly slippery on the screen, so that affects control. If you want more control, perhaps you might want to get a matte screen protector, but that's going to impact the color accuracy, the contrast, and the brightness of the screen. Right now, the colors, they look great. So I don't have matte screen protectors on both. On the iPad, the Apple Pencil actually has a bit more friction on the glass surface. So it's actually easier to draw with the Apple Pencil because it doesn't feel like your pen tip is sliding off to some place where you don't want to. Alright, to conclude, let me go through the pros and cons very quickly. So with the MediaPad, the price is incredibly attractive, especially if it comes bundled with the pen and the case. Even if it doesn't come bundled with the pen, you can buy this separately and it's still cheaper compared to the iPad. The design looks great, the screens on both tablets, they are fantastic, they are bright enough, the colors are very beautiful. There is a lot of features with the M5 Lite that really puts the iPad to shame, like the inclusion of the SIM card, the micro SD card slot, the 4-way speaker. The battery life on this is excellent. You can get probably 8-9 hours with drawing, but with the iPad it will be less, but battery life is still good, but it's less compared to the MediaPad. There is the laminated screen, which makes the IPS panel looks like it's on the surface of the glass. The downsides are there is some lag, and there is inconsistent performance with the drawing app. So some apps will perform better, some apps will not perform as well, especially when it comes to the lag. And the screen, it's very slippery, and the pen tips for the M Pen Lite, very difficult to find. For the pros of the iPad, we have the Apple Pencil, which is very accurate. It has fantastic pressure and tilt sensitivity. Palm rejection works almost flawlessly most of the time, and you can expect that level of performance to be consistent with most of the drawing apps. And there are a lot of good drawing apps from the Apple App Store. I also like the aspect ratio. I believe, in my opinion, this is a better aspect ratio when it comes to drawing. And the screen has more friction, so it gives you more control when you are drawing. And the overall performance when it comes to drawing is more responsive. It has less input lag. Now the downside is, well, not related to drawing, the two-way speakers and the lack of micro SD cards. So if you want to upgrade your iPad, you have to do so at the time of purchase in order to get the extra storage or the LTE connectivity. To increase capacity from 32 gigs to 128 gigs is going to cost you another US $100. If you want LTE connectivity, that's another US $100, and the Apple Pencil is another US $100. So if you add up everything, it's more expensive. My overall recommendation is this: if you know that you are someone who is going to draw very often, the iPad is going to give you better performance and experience. If you are someone who is just going to draw occasionally, perhaps the MediaPad M5 Lite may be more worth the money because it has a lot more features. So that's all for this review. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. I hope this video is helpful. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.